Welcome to the Depths, a ocean horror survival game. Excited for the game to develop and for attention to be brought to the game. Gonna just keep trying to post regularly, and I hope you enjoy the journey. So, players are going to begin in a large sub in the upper levels of the ocean, the upper depths. And in the upper depths and the mid depths, they'll scavenge, explore, try to find evidence of what went wrong at the research facility at the bottom of the depths. After the upper and mid tier have been explored, materials collected, whether that be documentation, experiments. You really don't know what's going to be out there, but whatever it is, it came from the research facility at the bottom of the ocean, and there's a catastrophe that went on, and we have to figure out which nation of the multi-coalition is responsible. Where your party of four is the multinational coalition, and you don't want to be it. You don't want it to be your nation. So you need to cover up if it is you, and if it's not you, you need to bring the information to light. Now, there's that catch, but the game is going to be a replayable exploration, survival, and evidence-based knowledge and skill mechanics in the game. And there's going to be single player with 3 NPCs, possibly at the beginning, to then be opened up to multiplayer. You're going to be either a military or researcher scientist personnel, where researchers might have analysis and evidence focus, and an officer survival and discipline focus. You're going to be able to try to navigate the most uncertain fear of all, which is each other, human social psychology. Now, as you're exploring the depths, there's going to be a lot of floating debris, a lot of floating objects throughout the upper, mid, and lower levels of the depths. And you're trying to figure out what went wrong at the research facility at the bottom of the depths. But also there's creatures lurking. There's creatures lurking throughout the waters in different sectors of the ocean. Now, in the beta, it's going to be 4 different sectors. You're going to start from the center of these 4 sectors, and there's going to be, a different creature that inhabits each sector. And while you're collecting evidence and trying to figure out and piece together what's been going on, and trying to learn and understand each other, you're going to have to try to be aware of the lurking possible biologically manipulated creatures that have been modified by the research facility. It's very unclear as to what the research facility did to these biological organisms. Now, you might just have a creature that's commonly found in the ocean, whether that's, shark or squid or, possibly an anglerfish. But also there's going to be things you haven't seen before. Things that you don't understand and don't really know what type of thing you're dealing with. What is its makeup? What is its quirks? What is its defense mechanisms? What is its aggression levels? You're going to have to be exploring that as you play the beta. So, as you're going throughout the sectors, you have to be, careful in your risk reward decision making, and you need to commit to whatever you're going to do, and you need to work together. You need to cooperate with your team, especially as you know the least amount of the information in the beginning of the game. You're going to be going out in the ocean. You're going to be basically collecting data. What's out here? What's safe? What's not safe? Is it worth trying this? Is it not worth trying this? There's going to be mechanics that you can do to, try to probe as to what you're dealing with, what kind of creature you're dealing with in each of the various sectors. There's also going to be some survival limitations. It's not going to be the totality of the game, but there's definitely going to be survival elements. Air, your oxygen intake, your temperature, pressure, how much pressure you're withstanding, how your suit's doing, is there degradation to the suit? Things like that. So now, each player needs to protect their own nation's interests, but you also know you all need to survive together. So you might have to pick good timings and be diplomatic about when and why and how you do things. The paranoia is real, and trust can be weaponized. Okay, so let me clearly quantify the goal when you enter the game. There's going to be some sort of value system split into thirds at the moment. The most important thing you can do is to recover the Depth's Oceanic biological sample. It's the main objective. It's what has been corrupting creatures, and it's what is the biotech that the research facility at the bottom of the ocean has been working on for months. Now, that's going to be randomly, procedurally assigned throughout the depths, throughout the sectors that you're going to occupy. And in the beta, you're going to basically launch all the way down to the lower depths. So, and it's not going to be as difficult as the full game release will be at the bottom depths, but it's going to have a very general synopsis of what the game's about. So, not too difficult, not too easy. Like, it's a horror game. You're not meant to survive. At least, you're not meant to survive often. But it's skill and knowledge based. So, it all comes down to you and your decision making. And your risks you're willing to take. So, that's a third of the points. Recovery of the Dobbs. Number 2, another third of the points, is identification of creatures. Okay, what's occupying each of the sectors? We need to let the coalition of nations know what's down here and how to contain this incident. What got out, what's around, and what needs to be addressed. What creatures specifically modified creatures, need detainment. And your responsibility is just to bring the information back. So a third of the points is going to be the identification of creatures throughout the depths, throughout the sectors in the beta, just these 4 sectors. Now, correctly figuring out which creature inhabits each sector could, like if you have a wrong guess, like a wrong deterrent or attractant, you risk dying because you might do the inverse of what the creature responds negatively to or positively to. So you have to be careful about what you do when you're trying to probe to see what's out there. So 1/3 of the points is recovering the Dobbs, exploring and finding it. Another third of the points is identification of the creatures throughout the sectors. And then another third of the points is collection and documentation of scientific materials, resources, samples, and largely collecting these materials, taking photo and video evidence of these materials, taking documentation, documenting and journaling what you find, things like that. There'll be mechanics in the game for this. So that's each third of the points. Recovery of the Dobbs, identification of creatures, and collection and documentation of scientific materials released from the Depths facility. We'll get to the Depths acronym as time progresses. So, the horror style of the game, it is going to be a horror genre. It's heavy on psychological dread, unknowns, and calculated risks. Creatures are elusive, glimpsed rarely, and full sightings lead to jump scares. So overall, there's a cooperative descent with a paranoia tension. There's limited survival preparation, limited gear, limited equipment, how well your equipment is maintained or not. There's the exploration and gathering of evidence. There's risk-based encounters with unknown creatures. And then the net value that you earn in the game is tied to survival, retrieval, and correct identification. So the vibe that the Depths is aiming for is a mix of co-op ocean fear of the unknown, survival, and exploration, a knowledge and skill-based game mechanics, and focused tightly on tension, uncertainty, and jump scares when facing death. Welcome to the Depths.